My boyfriend of 6 years, Charles, said in front of all the media that I'm only fit to be a girlfriend, not a wife. When he was singing my songs, dancing my choreographs, and taking the awards I should have received, he didn't seem to think I was unfit. Given another chance. He still wants to buy off reporters to make me clarify that he didn't cheat. I punched him in front of all the media, turning his face into a pulp, giving him the trending headline of his dreams. Standing on stage, the lights were blinding. I instinctively blocked my eyes. Countless harsh voices attacked me. Catherine, is your suicide attempt related to Charles? Have you considered the trouble you're causing Charles with your actions? Is it true you have depression? Do you think someone like that is suitable for marriage? Have you thought about the negative impact this behavior might have on your fans? It took me a moment to realize I had been reborn. Back to when I was 25 and reigning the entertainment industry. Today was the day of Charles's press conference. A few days back, the media caught him cheating, leading to my wrist-slitting incident. He is now at the center of a public storm. Before this conference, he called me, hinting that he'd propose today. Catherine, those photos are fake. Just help me one more time. Our wedding house is already decorated to your taste. We'll have a cat, a dog, and live happily. You want a beautiful future together, don't you? He knows me too well. He knows my vulnerabilities. My parents divorced, and I drifted with my mother. Mom is a gambler, deeply in debt. As a kid, my house was often filled with the shouting and smashing of debt collectors. I entered showbiz to pay off her debts. But I know, my mom is hopeless. I have no home. So, having a home is my deepest desire. Charles leveraged that. Using marriage as a ransom. He sent me photos from the press conference. Pink balloons. Pink flowers. Hearts everywhere. Photos of us. I took it seriously. I really thought he'd propose at the press conference. I got myself together, dressed up neatly, and hurried over. Only to find myself alone. Facing sharp questions from the reporters. Guided by the ones he bought. I cried and apologized on stage, saying I shouldn't have slit my wrists, shouldn't have troubled him, and I betrayed his trust. I drew all the attention, and then he showed up fashionably late. He didn't even glance at me. Instead, he excitedly announced his upcoming plans. A reporter finally couldn't resist and asked if he intended to marry me. He said leisurely, Catherine is a good girlfriend, but not suitable as a wife. So, are you proposing today? No, I never thought of proposing today. At that moment, my heart went cold. I looked at him in disbelief. He just smiled and said, Catherine, I'll forgive you this time, just don't make such mistakes again. My world collapsed. That day, the whole entertainment circle went mad. He was scolded by netizens. My popularity plummeted, and from then on, I fell into a deep abyss and could never climb out. If given another chance, if I can still be brainwashed by him, I'll admit defeat. I blinked, adjusting to the light. Pulled out a chair and sat down steadily. Ignoring the aggressive reporter, I calmly said to everyone, please be patient, this is Charles's press conference, I shouldn't steal the spotlight. But the reporter didn't plan to let me go. Are you ignoring us? Miss Catherine, your arrogance is really something. He was provoking me. If I got mad, he'd have a big scoop. Last time, I was emotionally unstable under his questioning, bearing the grievances. I made the biggest mistake of my life for that fantasy proposal. This time, it's different. Ignored him again and looked to another reporter. Do you have any questions? In my previous life, that reporter was the only one who truthfully restored the scene of the press conference after the events unfolded. They reported that I was gradually induced into apologizing to Charles. Unfortunately, by then, people were chasing what they wanted to see. Calling me stupid. Calling Charles a jerk. Nobody cared how things got to that point. Given another chance, I won't let someone who helped me be humiliated. The reporter was flattered. Miss Catherine, is it true that you cut your wrists for Mr. Charles? Yes. I showed my scars. My wrist was covered in marks. I never understood why I couldn't leave Charles. He was like a sugar-coated bomb. Even if it blasted me to pieces, I'd still rush to taste the sweetness despite knowing the consequences. Pointing to my wrist, I softly spoke. This was from the first time he cheated. This was the second time. It's my first time revealing these things publicly. I used to be ashamed to talk about them. My mom, addicted to gambling, always lingering among men, yelling with those playing cards. Yet, curiously, she taught me to know shame, to be the kind of woman who pleases men. In my long solitude later, I probably figured it out. She never knew what a happy marriage was, so she pinned her fantasy of one on me. She thought if I knew shame, wasn't as carefree as her, pleased men, I'd have a happy marriage. But alas, reality doesn't evolve as imagined. If you don't meet someone who cherishes you, being polite and sensible just allows them to crush you. I never imagined that I, once shining brightly, would fall into oblivion like dust, as insignificant as an ant, after meeting Charles. Beneath my gentle words was a wealth of information. The place was in an uproar. Flashes went off everywhere, capturing my tearful face. Once, I was voted as the actress with the most beautiful crying face. My fans said my tears were precious, like those of a mermaid. But my scarred wrists told a different story. They showed how deeply Charles hurt me. He wanted to use me to clean his image, but I was determined to use the press conference to confirm all the rumors. Yes, Charles really was a total jerk. I gently touched the deepest scar on my hand. This time, I almost didn't make it. 6 hours in the hospital to save me. Charles's reputation was ruined as a result. But he never felt guilty, nor did he try explaining. He just wanted me to stand by him, to tell the world I believed him, was willing to accept him, and loved him. He drained my popularity for his gain. There's no way I'd let that happen again. If I'm in hell, he's coming with me. I spoke slowly. Charles couldn't hold it any longer. He rushed out from backstage. Catherine, what are you doing? His fingers gripped my wrist tightly, his face livid. He didn't care he was tearing my wound apart. He blocked my face from the media and said, "My girlfriend is not mentally stable. Once this is over, I'll take her home." Without letting me speak, he tried to drag me away. At that moment, I was disgusted. Last time, he tricked me into signing with his agency under the guise of career development. After the press conference, he was afraid I'd damage his image further, claiming I was mentally unstable, and blackballed me for 10 years. A decade, my best years just slipped by. Now, I despise that word. I freed my wrist from his grip and glared at him with hatred. I grabbed a chair and hurled it at him. Charles looked at me in disbelief as he fell to the ground. I moved forward, kicking him with my high heel, crying in despair. Why deceive me? Why make me help you fool the fans? You did have something with Stella, didn't you? You never planned on marrying me. Why lie about proposing during the press conference? Why bribe reporters to provoke me? Do you think my depression isn't deep enough? If you didn't trick me about proposing, I wouldn't be here. You tricked me into buying a house for 80 million. Give my money back. Give me back my 6 years, the songs I wrote, my trophies. You scumbag. Charles curled up on the floor, screaming in pain. I was pulled back, others helped him stand. Blood dripped from his mouth. He looked disheveled, not an ounce of his former grace. His eyes were cold, but his words measured. Your mental illness is acting up again. I forgive you for today, I'll take care of you. His people came to take me away. I grabbed a chair and swung it wildly, scattering everyone around. In that moment, I was calm. He wanted to label me as mentally ill, to control me, to make sure I'd never face the media again, like last time. That was a fantasy. I spoke coldly, Charles, we're done. Don't try to twist the narrative and control me with words. people see what you've done to me. You'll pay for it, I'm waiting for that day." He couldn't believe what he heard. "Do you know what you're saying? Once it's out, there's no going back." He was threatening me. Back then, I was so pathetic. He cheated multiple times and I still forgave him. Not anymore. I smiled. I took the mic and sincerely addressed the media. "Sorry for the spectacle today, folks. As you can see, Charles and I are completely over. Let me clarify, his cheating is true, my wrist cutting is true. I've set a bad example by punishing myself for his mistakes. I hope other girls won't be like me and instead love themselves fiercely and live better lives. Thank you again, truly thank you." I bowed with tears streaming down, quickly soaking the floor. I'm thankful to be back under the spotlight, back to the biggest mistake, with a chance to rewrite it all. That day, I bowed 17 times, apologized for 30 minutes, and the press conference ended amid disbelief. And Charles? Off to the hospital. In the silent venue, I took a moment to recharge before leaving. Outside, my agent Tracy waited. Seeing me, her expression was complex. She wanted to approach but stopped short. In the past life, Charles's career stalled due to scandals. He then targeted me, first by convincing me to end the contract with Tracy. Then tricked me into signing with his new company, promising me the best resources. Thus, Tracy and I parted ways, never to connect again. I only heard about her after my death. She took on new talents, but under Charles's suppression, achieved nothing. She eventually left the industry, returned to her hometown, and spent the rest of her life disheartened. Neither of us had a happy ending. What a waste. Why do the bad guys live freely while the good ones cower? This second chance was given to make Charles pay, to see me shining on stage once more. And to bask in life with those who once helped me, paying back every debt. This time, I signed a lifelong contract with Tracy. Holding the papers, she smirked, "Don't regret it." I shook my head and signed it quickly. She froze, looking at me oddly. "You? What about me?" She chuckled and didn't say more. "Nothing, just feels like you've changed." She quickly signed her name, reminding me. "You better handle your contract with Charles Entertainment. Otherwise, our deal is void. I'm not jumping into Charles's trap with you. Don't worry." I quickly pulled out the contract with Charles. The contract was actually signed a while ago. That day, I was so excited for him to pick it up, so I could see him. But he stood me up and went to see Stella instead. I waited eagerly for him here, while he was getting cozy with Stella. After that, I cut my wrist, got treated, and came back to recover. I never gave the contract to Charles, and he never dared to ask for it. So, I dodged a bullet. I softly said, "Not anymore." Right in front of Tracy, I tossed the contract into the shredder, watching as the 10-year bond got torn to pieces. Finally, I felt relieved. Tracy let out a sigh of relief too. "So, which company are you planning to sign with next? Both of those offers are pretty good. Or you could just renew with your old company." I shook my head and turned down her suggestion. "We're going to do it ourselves. Let's start our own entertainment company. Be our own bosses. Sign newcomers. You and I, partners." Tracy's eyes lit up. But when she saw the list I gave her, she kind of exploded. "You want me to sign these rookies, these nobodies? These people have zero potential. I can't see any talent in them at all. Signing them now is just throwing money away. You can spend your money like it's nothing, but you can't squander mine." I laughed. Seeing Tracy like this made me feel more in touch with reality. I placed my hands on her shoulders, my eyes more serious than ever. "Trust me, Tracy. If you don't want to sign them all at once, start with Daniel. Once you sign him, you'll get what I mean." She hesitated, pushed my hands away, and left with her bag. "I think you haven't woken up yet. If I keep humoring you, I swear." She slammed the door behind her. The bang felt like it hit my heart. I felt bad for a moment but then pulled myself together. Given my history, it's okay if people don't trust me right away. A few more tries should work. Catherine, you got this. Don't give up on yourself. As I was lost in thought, there was a knock at the door. I rushed to open it. Tracy stood there with a stern look. I'm betting everything on trusting you this time. I'm going to find Daniel. Don't let me down. She turned and walked away. Watching her go, I whispered, Tracy, I'm sorry. Tracy paused for a moment. She looked at me deeply, then didn't even wait for the elevator and went straight down the stairs. I couldn't help but smile. And then, couldn't help but cry. Sorry, I should have said that much earlier. A few minutes later, my phone rang. Tracy's voice came through. I called someone to change your locks. You just pissed off Charles, and he's a jerk, so stay safe and lay low for a bit. Also, don't read the online comments, I'll handle them. I also called someone to take care of your wounds. I hope you'll listen, take your meds on time, and don't make me come over to force feed you. She hung up quickly. I cried and laughed, feeling hopeful again. Why did I once throw away such a good friend for a jerk? I was so dumb. Soon, the locksmith and doctor arrived. I wrapped things up and took my meds, sending Tracy a video of me doing it. Out of curiosity, I opened Instagram. There it was, all the buzz about me and Charles. Catherine and Charles break up. Catherine beats Charles. Charles cheating exposed. Catherine, Charles, and Stella. Catherine's suicide attempt. I clicked on the trending post. The thousands of comments made my computer lag. I took a deep breath, trying to prepare myself emotionally. But just skimming a few made me tear up. Finally, you woke up. We always said he didn't deserve you. Sis, fighting him again? I can lend you my hand, I hit hard. Goddess, don't fight. You're a star, you should look radiant. Let me handle it, we specialize in dealing with bums around here. Catherine, hurting him isn't good. Your feet and hands must hurt. I'm a martial arts coach, I can teach you to fight without getting hurt for free. I cried while laughing. Last time, folks pitied me and were angry at my helplessness, wishing they could hit Charles for me. Everyone saw he was trash. But I was blind, thinking he was my whole world. My actions pushed away those who truly cared. When I finally realized it, it was too late. But this time, I did it, they responded with blessings, comfort, and sympathy. If you don't stand up for yourself, you're digging your own grave. I wiped away my tears and clicked on the martial arts coach's profile. Turns out, he's a well-known martial arts coach with real skills. I replied to him. Sounds great, I'll DM you. Thanks. After sending the message, the notifications already hit 99+. Countless people cheering me on. Even more teaching me self-defense, because a guy like Charles has no moral boundaries. Losing his career might make him want to drag me down too. Sis, if the jerk comes crawling back, don't look back. He's only using you to regain fame. Once you help, he'll toss you aside like trash. Don't get lost in love, you'll be punished with extra chores. I paused. Are they all Sherlock Holmes? That's exactly what happened last time. I finally pulled myself out of emotional hurt, re-signed with the company, and put on a big show. But on the same day, Charles's scandal broke out and he even made sure I found out about it. Hearing the news hit me so hard that I fainted on stage. The performance failed, and I completely said goodbye to the stage. I never made a comeback. My music sales, which once had album sales of 200 million, gradually dropped to tens of millions, and then not even hundreds of thousands. Worse, I couldn't write a good song anymore. As the strongest singer, I died on the stage. I replied to that message. Right then, my phone rang. It was Charles calling. Seeing his name on my phone made me feel all sorts of things. We hadn't talked for over 30 years since we went our separate ways until I died. Hearing from him now felt surreal. I picked up the call. An angry voice on the other end. "Catherine, what's up with you? You ruined the proposal I planned for you. Don't expect me to propose again. This is all you're doing." I couldn't help but laugh. He really knows how to shift the blame. If I hadn't lived through the last life, the old me probably would have believed him, felt guilty, and apologized like a pitiful mess. Instead, I coldly replied, "Do you really think I don't know your dirty plans? If you meant to propose, why was I alone with the press? Why only show up after the news broke? Were you waiting inside the whole time? Was that journalist your setup? How much did you pay him to lead me to apologize to you? You planned to use me to clear your scandal and then toss me aside, right? Charles, no one will always fall for your games. Without my love, you're nothing to me." Silence on his end. Charles sighed deeply. "Catherine, is this what you think of me? What a misunderstanding we have. I just went to the bathroom, everything changed when I got back. Of course, I wanted to propose to you. Why else hold such a press conference? If you don't believe me, I'll propose on Twitter right now." His acting is Oscar level, honestly. If only he used it for good instead of relying on women to get ahead. I chuckled, "Really? Go ahead then. Admit on Twitter you cheated first, causing my depression and wrist cutting. Ask for my forgiveness. Once you get it, you can propose. Can you do that?" A long silence again from his end. Then, venom in his voice, "You're insane. A woman as unlikable as you deserves hell." Click. The call ended. I was furious. Once his true self was exposed, he didn't even pretend anymore. I thought about taking Charles down on Twitter. But with my new talent agency in the works, I decided to wait and handle it all at once. Meanwhile, let Charles hang on Twitter for a bit and enjoy the spotlight. In a few days, Charles's past flings got dragged out one by one. Now he's labeled as the biggest jerk of the century online. His shady past caught up with him, and the public saw him for what he is, a scandal-prone sleazeball. At ease with the chaos, I gossiped. Then I got a notification. Charles penned a lengthy post on Twitter. He reminisced about our past and said he'd broken up with me ages ago. Claimed I was the clingy, unstable one, using my health to manipulate him. He even said he didn't announce the breakup due to lingering affection. The scandal with Stella was apparently the spark, painting him as a reluctant victim. He conveniently left out why he held the press conference, why I was invited, and why everyone thought it was for a proposal. His post quickly grabbed attention and drew a crowd. Most people called him out, but a few sided with him. Some of those people found their way to my Twitter, spewing vile comments. My mood shifted uneasily. I had hit rock bottom with depression once, taking meds until my last breath. Yet the backlash felt much less daunting this time. Tracy called just then. "Let me handle this," she said, sounding worn out. "Stay offline, avoid the negativity. Just tell me where you stand with Charles." With the company stuff bogging her down, Charles's mess only added to her stress. I guess she feared I'd go back to my old ways, forgiving Charles just to torture myself. I had to give her peace of mind. Gently yet firmly, I replied, "Make him pay." "What?" Tracy was stunned. "You heard me right," I assured her. "Make him pay. I've got proof. Help me take him down for good." She immediately said, "I'm coming to see you." I spent 3 days compiling evidence against Charles. Tracy had someone help organize it into a clear timeline, complete with a presentation, photos, videos, and audio. Enough to bury Charles for good. 3 days later, after getting cursed out countless times and being hounded by the media, the situation hit its peak. I decided to release the evidence I had, piece by piece. The most crucial part was the recording from before the press conference. It clearly captured Charles hinting at a proposal and begging me to deceive the fans for him. That recording, honestly, I stumbled into playing in a moment of emotional stress. Funny how it turned into damning evidence against Charles. Once I posted the evidence on my social media, it blew up. Dirty scumbag. You said you broke up with Catherine? Then why did you hint at proposing and ask her to attend that press conference? How could you use her money to buy a house meant for your engagement? Return that $80 million to Catherine. Disgusting jerk. You keep saying you broke up, but then you're spending Catherine's money dating other actresses? Using her cash for hotels and such? Trash, I swear. I despise you and anyone who doesn't despise you. Karma's a thing. Good people will be taken care of, and rotten ones won't get away with it. That means you, scumbag. This time, the tide of public opinion turned. Everyone began slamming Charles. It got to a point he couldn't handle anymore, and he shut down his social media comments. But even that didn't help him. The conversation around the issue stayed heated and against him. Meanwhile, I quickly sent out a few legal notices. One was to sue Charles to reclaim that $80 million, the renovation costs for the engagement house, and the large amounts I spent on him during our relationship, basically, whatever he charged to my card. Another was to revoke the rights to all the songs and choreography I'd given him for free. Those rights were legally mine, and now I'm taking that back. He can no longer use my work to boost himself. Also, I declared my participation as a candidate in the music awards this year. Last year, I backed out to ensure he could win. I campaigned for him hard. He won, and then promptly got caught celebrating with another actress. People mocked me for putting love before myself, called me desperate, and my depression worsened. I even began to self-harm. Recently he came asking for my help again. Not a chance. Someone like him shouldn't be on stage. After my legal action, Charles panicked. He called me, sounding a lot more respectful. Catherine, we've been together for 6 years. Do we really have to end like this? There was genuine sadness in his voice, like he really cared. He reminisced about when we first met on that TV show where I was the lead actress and he was the leading man. He claimed he had liked me since then, saying my eyes were like stars. He went on about the past fondly. I just placed the phone down and started scrolling through videos on my tablet. What's the point in this? I used to chew over these memories and drown in regret. Now I just felt disgust. He went on for like 10 minutes, seemingly moved by his own words, not caring that I wasn't responding. When he finally called my name, I picked the phone back up. Once you're done talking, remember to return the money. You know my account details. I hung up, feeling relief wash over me. Charles never realized his actual mistakes, he only cared about his interests. Once those were threatened, he'd turn into this pathetic, pleading mess. When he called again, I just put my phone on silent, refusing to answer. Frustrated, he sent an offensively vile text message instead. You bitch, I hope you die painfully. Perfect. I posted the earlier nostalgic call recording along with this message on my social media, asking, does Charles have a split personality? After this post, Charles was vilified even more intensely. He cut off all contact with me, and finally, my world was quiet. My lawyer pushed forward with a lawsuit against Charles and his company. Under pressure, Charles began handling the assets in his name, including the house. He chose not to fight legally but settled the matter, paying me a huge $180 million, pretty much everything he owned. On the day the transfer happened, a message from an unknown number popped up on my phone. No one will ever love you. You'll be alone forever. Pathetic. I laughed to myself. Charles knew me too well. I wasn't afraid of being broke, or losing fame, or having no career. What terrified me was not being loved. I shared the text on social media, asking everyone, do you all love me? That day, I received over 1 million messages of love back. Meanwhile, Charles received over 1 million curses. He truly dared not reach out again. I focused entirely on my career. First, I announced the formation of a new company and revealed the list of signed artists. Then I got to work on my new album. I planned to re-record the songs I'd written for Charles and sing them myself. Charles was never much of a singer. He couldn't feel the soul of my songs, wasting them. I wanted people to associate those songs with me, Catherine, not Charles the jerk. I even carefully selected songs I wrote after leaving the stage, during that past life, and included them in the album. One day, after finishing a recording session at the company, Tracy came up, beaming, and introduced me to a newcomer. "You're MV's lead guy." The young man smiled shyly and extended a friendly hand. "Hi, Catherine." I looked at him. "Oh, Daniel." In a past life, Daniel had been a huge star for decades. Even as he aged, he remained a beloved icon. But as a young man, he hadn't been so lucky. Part of a boy band, his undeniable talent made others jealous. An accident left him recovering for over 3 years, and his prior fame faded fast. I was almost in my 30s when a variety show finally turned things around for me. I brought him on board so nobody could sabotage him, and hoped he'd have a bright future in showbiz. We shook hands lightly, and I nodded to encourage him before walking away. In the following days, the MV dropped and was a massive hit, racking up 1 billion views in 3 hours. The top single sold 2 million, breaking records. Everyone was drawn to my song and Daniel's looks. The MV featured other newcomers, giving the company great exposure. People started comparing Daniel and me again. They marveled at how Catherine's songs suited her perfectly, unlike whoever tried singing them before. People were moved to tears by the song, calling it something only the heartbroken would understand. They urged for a live concert, praising me as a queen and a diva. Daniel got more recognition with a fan base of over 1 million overnight. Other newcomers gained followers from their MV appearances. I had succeeded. Flowers and applause were back in my life. I struck while the iron was hot, accepting a gig at a gala. On the night of the concert, a strange number sent me a news link. Charles was spotted with mega star Lily. They were rumored to be an item. My gut told me it was Charles. Word was, he had dragged his management company down with his legal issues with me. Now the company had a terrible reputation in the industry, with many artists seeking to break their contracts. They hated Charles's guts. If Charles wanted to make a comeback, his only way was to make sure I disappeared from the stage forever. As long as I stayed on that stage, he'd keep getting criticized. He thought he'd provoke me with scandalous gossip. Last time, it worked. I had fainted during a performance. He wished. This time, I wasn't just going to sing and blow up, I'd make sure he and Lily ended up at odds too. I shared the text on my social media, thanks to whoever sent me my ex's news while I was at the gala. Really thoughtful, thanks very much. Comments flooded in quickly. Definitely Charles, no one else would do such a thing. Disgusted by this jerk's antics. Don't get affected, sis. We're rooting for you, I've got the TV on waiting for your show. Catherine, don't worry, we've got your back. Someone immediately went to Lily's profile, informing her of Charles's messy love life. I chuckled, feeling great. At the gala, I poured my heart into singing my new song, Regret. Yes, regret. After decades of experience, I finally understood. Love matters, but in the grand scheme of life, it's just a piece of our emotions. Making love your entire world is a recipe for disaster. I wanted people to see that even if they lost in love, they could put their heart into conquering the world. This song was deeply personal. It was my tombstone song from my past life. I treated this gala like a release party. When I finished, tears streamed down my face. The applause was thunderous, lasting for ages. Many in the audience were in tears too. Backstage, I got a call from an unknown number. It felt important. Answering it, a gentle voice came through. Congratulations. Regret was incredible. I'm Lily. Can I do a Cantonese version of it? Lily. I couldn't help but laugh. Lily always flew under the radar. She was the only one of Charles's rumored flings who had been truly betrayed. They met abroad. She never knew Charles had a girlfriend. Once she found out, she left immediately. In the past life, this left her devastated, and she passed away too soon. Charles was a scumbag but also very charming, or else so many successful women wouldn't have fallen for him. But he shamelessly wielded his charm to toy with emotions, and that's unforgivable. I agreed and scheduled a meet-up with Lily. I invited her over to my place and cooked for her. When she arrived, she was greeted by a table full of delicious food. I smiled warmly, inviting her to sit. Lily had a bright, bold look, yet was thin and frail but with a dignified spirit. We shared similar backstories, entering showbiz to pay off debts. The difference was, my mom had passed, her mom was still exploiting her. She probably craved love more than I did. And Charles had a knack for manipulating people like us. I filled her plate with food, joking, I've listened to your songs, seen your movies, I'm a fan. So happy you came by. Mind if we take a pic for social media? No problem. I snapped a photo and posted, chilling with my idol. Lily retweeted, hanging with my idol. We laughed. We enjoyed the meal without mentioning Charles. I shared some songs I thought would suit her and suggested she consider covering them. She was thrilled, asking repeatedly, for me? All of them? She seemed lost and hesitated to leave. Why let go? I looked at her calmly, maybe because I've lived past once. Remembering her tragic end in the past, never getting to see the jerk acknowledge her, I suggested, you should get a health check. She nodded, complex emotions on her face, and left. Soon, word spread, Lily bailed on Charles's offer, flying back to Hong Kong that night. That's when I realized Charles wanted to start his entertainment company and invited Lily to join. Lily was tempted, but something changed her mind. I looked at Lily's thankful message, replying with, definitely check your health. Charles must have been fuming. He called from an unknown number. Once I recognized his voice, I hung up, then blocked him. Communicate with me? Maybe in the next life. Listen, I'm gonna make this guy feel totally miserable with no outlet, just letting him stew in his own frustration. Last time around, I was the one bottling up all the stress because of him. How come he gets to vent whenever he wants? I'm sticking to my own rhythm, so I went to the Star Gala to compete for the Best Singer award. This time, Charles didn't even make it to the nominations. Ever since I took back the rights to my songs, his music might still be out there, but the comments? All nasty. They call him a freeloader, eating off of me and then dissing me. Comparing his songs to mine now, he's basically been turned to dust. At the gala, I snagged the best album for my new record and bagged Best Singer for the song Regret. I became the first to grab Best Singer 3 times in the history of the awards night. I'm going down in the music biz history. Standing on stage, clutching the trophy, I was so choked up I couldn't even speak. I could have won 3 times in a row before, but I gave it up for Charles, even helped him to win this thing. Now that I've got the award back, I feel so incredibly happy to reclaim what was mine. Compared to winning, why sweat a loser's affection? I tearfully sang a shaky regret as a thank you and bowed repeatedly amid thunderous applause before leaving the stage. That day, Tracy and I hugged and cried. Everyone in the company celebrated like there was no tomorrow. Online, congratulations were everywhere. The stars shined bright, time was peaceful. This life, it's different now. After the party, I went home. Just as I opened the door, a shadow darted in, yanked me inside, slammed the door, and pinned me to the wall, covering my mouth. It was Charles. He looked rough. Beard unkempt, face gloomy, clearly indulging too much in a lifestyle of excess, living confusedly. His eyes were vicious, not charming like before. You look pretty pleased with yourself. Do you know you've ruined me? I sensed his crazy. This kind of person only knows how to step on others, but if someone steps on him, he goes nuts. I pushed his hand away, disgusted. What do you want? He fumed, like a trapped animal. What do I want? Everyone's cursing me. I've got no money, no career, what do you think I want? You've still got Stella and your other shady connections, haven't you? I started listing off names, rattling off at least 10. Couldn't help it, each fling was like a knife stuck in my heart, cut me deep, and I remembered them all vividly. He went pale, looking none too pleased. I remembered. Once his online rep tanked, those people grabbed their share of the limelight. Some claimed they had nothing to do with him, some said it was just work, and some even said they barely knew him. Everyone feared being dragged down by him. He sneered, "Are you mocking me?" I pushed him aside and reached for my phone. He kicked my bag, sending the phone flying. I stayed cool, saying lazily, "Just stating the facts." You came to tell me how pathetic you are? A flash of anger crossed his eyes. We were together 6 years, and you shook me down for cash after we split. Just when I patched things up with Lily, you drove her away. You've screwed me over. Don't you think you owe me for my lost youth? I was momentarily dazed. His youth, wasted on a bed of excess and luxury? Does he mean I wasted his youth? What about mine? I couldn't help but laugh, uncontrollably. Sure, I'll pay for your lost youth along with everyone you've been rumored with. Are you messing with me? You're the one telling the joke. Catherine. He suddenly flashed a blade, holding it to my neck. My eyes narrowed slightly as they flicked to a bouquet in the room. You've lost it. Yeah, I'm losing it. You lunatic, if it hadn't been for you, I wouldn't be in this mess. It's all your fault. He was agitated, clearly hating me to death. I closed my eyes briefly, looked him straight in the eye. How much do you want? 200 million. Big appetite. Are you giving it or not? Don't think I won't use this. And then what? You planning on singing, dancing, acting still? It's laughable. Charles might be messed up, but he did have ambition, aiming to be a triple threat, wanting to top everything, even start a company, sign artists, impossibly greedy. In this lifetime, his career's over. I tossed out an olive branch, he might be tempted. He hesitated, asking, "What's your idea?" I moved his knife away, saying calmly, "My company's signing artists. I'll give you the best contract." You're ruthless, you want to bench me? Charles once had the same idea about me, so he was instantly angry. I laughed. Of course, with conditions. You work for me now, no rumors allowed. If there's gossip, your money is mine. You willing to sign? You just can't let me go? He laughed too, a smug, knowing smile. Oh, I used to be so pathetic for him. Complained that his housekeeper wasn't up to snuff. I'd drop everything to do his chores, clean every corner. He said there weren't job offers, I'd bring him along, connect him with gigs. Couldn't remember lines and got flack from directors. He'd blame me for being too good, making him look bad, and curse me out, claiming I did it on purpose. He thought he had me wrapped around his finger. Yet, I broke free. Now, he believes all I do is because I can't get over him, his confidence, his superiority, they're back. I sighed, yeah, I can't let you go. Can't let you go because how else will I have revenge? He didn't buy it. Send the cash first. About the contract, send it over, I'll think about it. No problem. I picked up my phone, and then, suddenly, he snatched it away from me, looking all wary. I calmly said, 200 million's not a small amount. I need to call Tracy to arrange the transfer. If you don't trust me, you can leave. No need to stick around here. He paused but eventually gave me the phone back. With a blank face, I dialed Tracy and put it on speaker. Tracy, check how much is in the company account. Arrange a 200 million transfer to Charles. I want us to patch things up. 200 million to Charles? Are you crazy? Didn't you say you were over him? Seems like you were lying to me. Her voice was full of pure disappointment. I spoke softly, Tracy, I'm sorry. She was silent for a while. I knew you couldn't give him up. You two have been together 6 years, if you could let go, you would have by now. But don't worry, I'm not here to lecture you. I'm just your manager. As long as you focus on your career and don't mess up my money flow, I don't care who you're with. If Charles can clean up his act, I won't oppose it. However, the company hasn't been around long enough. We don't have 200 million in the account. You'll have to dip into your own savings too. I'll come by and get your ID. And FYI, if you're giving him so much money, you should sign him to our company. Makes it easier for you to control him. She just kept going, rambling on and on. Charles listened intently the whole time. When he heard that line, he completely relaxed. He looked at me with a half smile, even had the nerve to light up a cigarette. He probably thinks the hard time I gave him was just for this. To knock him down, make him desperate, so he'd have no choice but to come back to me. He hung up the call. Catherine, you're being naughty. I don't like your tricks. How are you gonna make it up to me? His gaze was disgusting, filled with lust. I slammed my glass down, showing him the scar on my wrist. Then how are you going to make it up to me? Charles, promise me you'll behave from now on, okay? He froze for a moment, then got all excited. You've changed somehow. I let out a cold laugh and headed to the kitchen. I need something to eat. What do you want? He lounged on the couch, clearly convinced he was hungry. Just make some noodles. I nearly cried. On the day we got together, we snuck out from the film set, while everyone else was partying, and had a bowl of noodles at a small shop. Since then, our anniversaries have always been celebrated with a bowl of noodles. He said noodles on purpose, what a jerk. I made 2 bowls of scallion oil noodles. He frowned, but didn't say anything. After eating, he looked at me and smiled gently. This is pretty good. I smirked. Good. It's just noodles with some store-bought scallion oil sauce, not done with any heart. I stopped loving him, and he, in turn, became humble. Such irony. The doorbell rang. I got up, but Charles went to answer it himself, not trusting enough to let me. As soon as he opened it, someone kicked him right in the chest, and then in came Daniel, followed by Tracy, and a bunch of cops behind them. Charles was arrested for extortion and became headline news again. Turns out, behind the bouquet in my room was a camera recording him holding a knife to my neck, capturing the whole extortion scene. Tracy had sensed something was off from the way I spoke. She had been keeping an eye on everything I was doing lately and knew I'd never reconcile with Charles. She called Daniel immediately, and then they called the cops. Charles kept shouting in jail, demanding to see me. I thought it over, then decided to visit him. He looked absolutely frantic, eyes bloodshot like he wanted to eat me alive. The moment we locked eyes, I could tell something wasn't right. It was like a side of him I hadn't seen in this lifetime was back. Even though he tried hard to control it, there was a deep-seated contempt for me in his gaze. Like he always looked down on me. He said coldly, Catherine, drop the charges. Name your price. His tone had that air of superiority. I suddenly realized the Charles from my past life was back. Back then, even when he left the spotlight, he tagged along with some rich girl and lived a lavish, carefree life. He thought he could do whatever he wanted with me, never showed me any respect. Thought I was a desperate woman using a different tactic. He never saw me as an equal. I couldn't help but laugh, a laughter I couldn't suppress. Retribution comes around in circles, and his came right at him. After I finished laughing, I picked up the phone and said softly, Charles, how does it feel waking up in jail? His eyes were full of rage, yet he held back enough not to explode. Catherine, I visited your grave. The lilies were blooming beautifully. Your fans never forgot you. Do you know how I died? One of your fans stabbed me at your grave site. I died right there before your headstone. I did make mistakes, and in a past life, I paid for them. In this life, you shouldn't do this to me. I shouldn't be paying for things I never did. He sounded somewhat reasonable. In this lifetime, due to my awakening, he hadn't gotten the chance to do many things yet. He hadn't stolen my awards, blacklisted me, or made me faint on stage. But who says I'm just avenging the past life? I showed him the scars on my wrist, smiling. These are from each time you cheated. These scars on my heart are real, and I can't pretend they don't exist. If you really felt sorry, you should have made amends yourself a long time ago instead of dragging down my fans. You're in jail, not because of your past life, but because of the mistakes you made in this one. We all have to pay for what we did wrong. I hung up the phone and walked away. He was yelling behind me like a trapped animal. I heard that after I left, he was desperate to contact his wife from a past life, his former confidant, and his mistress. Turns out, his wife is just a sweet little elementary school kid now. His confidant hung up on him right away, eager to distance herself from him. And the mistress he was once so fond of? She answered and gave him a scolding, saying that trash like him should just die and reincarnate, so he doesn't harm other young girls. Hearing this made me laugh so hard, I cried. Tracy teased, looks like you've really let go. Wiping my tears, I replied, I've let go. Seeing him doing badly, I've truly let go. Breaking and entering, blackmail, the sentence he got isn't short. By the time he's out of prison, we'll be living in completely different worlds. With a criminal record like his, he'll never get back on stage. And I'm very satisfied with that. At the New Year's Eve concert, I performed a duet with Lily of my newly written song called Life's Gatherings and Partings. As soon as the song came out, it topped the New Year's Eve charts, going viral online and getting sung everywhere. After the show, Lily and I caught up a bit. She lit a cigarette, and amidst the swirling smoke, her face looked dreamlike, like an old beautiful painting. He called me, hoping I would help him. But I had a dream, where even before I died, he never came for me. At that time, he was busy chasing some girl, and that girl wasn't you. The dream felt so real, and when I woke up, I saw the news about him going to jail. If there really was a past life, he's probably here in this one to pay back debts. She looked at me, her gaze piercing, as if she wanted to see right through me. All of this change started on the day I hit Charles at the press conference. I couldn't tell if she, like Charles, had been reborn or if she just dreamed it all. But honestly, I don't want to talk about past lives anymore. Looking into the distance, I calmly said, we should live in the moment. You never know which will come first, tomorrow or an accident, right? Lily just smiled, took a long drag from her cigarette, and stubbed it out in the ashtray with force. The next day, the news reported her being hospitalized with early-stage cancer. I remembered in the last life, by the time she found out, it was already late stage. This time, there was finally a change. And I continued to stay on my beloved stage, singing the songs I loved, dancing my heart out, moving my waist, shining bright. The artists signed under me are shining earlier in this life, without hitting those grimy stumbling blocks. I think, the significance of being reborn is just that, to let the good rise, the bad fall, and let justice move forward fearlessly. I will seize the opportunity and make sure those hiding in the shadows stay in the abyss, never to see the light of day.